Well, hey, welcome back to 4Color Commentary. I'm Mark Allen, and this is going to be a quick video with a lot of stuff in it. Because here's the thing, I don't like to continue videos. So I'm going to go through, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go through my entire haul. I had an amazing haul the last couple of days, going to a couple of different places in Joplin, Missouri, and going through mostly dollar comics. Now, I'm not this one, but this is Superman number 5. This is the Adam Hughes cover. And on that cover, of course, Superman is being struck by lightning and saying, "It still tickles." Now, I haven't read any of the series, the new series by Brian Michael Bendis. I don't remember who's even doing the art. But this cover spoke to me. And I like Adam Hughes' work, but a lot of it I avoid just simply because it's not to my taste. But this was classic. This was classic Superman. Loved it. And so I had to pick that up today while I was at a vintage stock store in Joplin. Now, just going to go quickly through these. Most of these will be dollar finds. The ones that are not, I will indicate to it. But we start with a 3-issue series, a 3-issue miniseries, Union Jack. And that was actually written by, is it Rob? I think it's Ben Robb and John Cassidy. But John Cassidy did the art, which is the standout feature of this series. And if I'm not mistaken, and which I may be, but if I'm not mistaken, this series is where Cassidy started to get some of his superstar status as an artist. But it was just 3 issues, beautifully drawn, fun story, and it kind of takes a reminiscent of an old John Byrne Captain America story, Roger Stern and John Byrne Captain America story, with Union Jack years ago, back in the Bronze Age, fighting the Baron Blood, the same vampiric villain. And speaking of John Byrne, the next few books that I go through will be John Byrne books. I've always been a big John Byrne fan, and even before I knew his name as a kid, when I was reading comics, his work spoke to me. But before I do that, I will say I found this in a dollar box today at Vintage Stock in Joplin, and this is with the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. Evidently, Peter Porker's Spider-Ham is becoming more popular. I was kind of surprised to find that in a dollar box. I do believe it is starting to heat up on eBay, or at least people are asking a lot for it. I found it for $1 and happy to find it. I will give it a read. If I like it, I'll keep it. If I don't, I'll flip it. But starting with the John Byrne stuff. Now, this was a Byrne book. For those of you who are not familiar with Herbie the Fat Fury was an ACG, American Comics Group character, years ago, and starting back in the Silver Age. And I had no idea that that John Byrne did a Herbie book. Now, it has reprints in it, but the cover is by John Byrne. It's dated 1992, and it opens with an actual John Byrne story, but it is a new Fat Fury story, October 1992 when it was published. Pretty substantial looking Fat Fury story by Byrne in the beginning, and then reprints, it looks like, after that. I'm really not sure. I've never done much with Fat Fury. I think I've had one other Fat Fury book, and in my life, and that was, I think, because it had an Arthur Adams cover. So anyway, the next John Byrne item, one of the items, an item I didn't realize I had. I thought I had all of his work from the 80s. The Marvel Fanfare 29 slipped past me. This was done before John Byrne started right before he started his run on the Hulk, which was, of course, a short, I believe, a 6-issue run, a lot shorter than he and fans would have liked. But picked that up today. Now, that was not a dollar book. That was $2.99 in the back issue bin. Well worth it, and just a wonderful story and great Byrne art. Now, very quickly, some dollar books here. Thing number 1. This is a book that over the last few years had kind of heated up for some reason. I'm not sure why. I think this because the Thing's only solo book for a while, ran for a while, and it is a wonderful John Byrne cover, which is why I spent $1 for it, because it was worth that. I've been running down the John Byrne, the Fourth World book that John did for a while years ago, just filling in holes here and there in our region. Where you find back issues, it's regional. These are difficult for me to find. Now, I do a lot of dollar bin diving, but sure, I can go in and go through someone's back issues and find them, but even then sometimes they're difficult to find. Another title is difficult to find, and I'm going back and getting his Doom Patrol, and that's issue 7 and then issue 10. Those again, just slowly building up that collection. Look, part of the reason why I do dollar books, again, some collectors have more money than others. That's fine, but I do the dollar books from a financial standpoint, obviously, but also because the hunt, anyone can go and get them out of, order them online, order them on eBay. I could have every comic I wanted eventually if I just ordered it on eBay or bid for it on eBay, I should say, bought it online. I like the hunt, and I know a lot of you are the same way, and so that's why it sometimes takes some time, but it's worth it. Now, this is a Action Comics annual number 6 that I had and decided to get again. Just a great Magnolia cover there, but a Byrne story inside, and it was from the era that John was doing the Superman books or was doing Superman and what was the other one? Action Comics for DC. Another John Byrne, short-lived John Byrne series, FX, and I'm just, again, got 3 or 4 issues of that, trying to chase those down. Not always as easy as it sounds. Again, all dollar books. That was number 2. Now, one of my favorite series of all time. Sorry, off camera. One of my favorite series of all time. Alien Legion. Marvel's Alien Legion from the late 80s. Mid to late 80s. I guess early to mid and late 80s. But I had just recently began to get these together again. I'd read them piecemeal, a few. I don't think I ever read the whole series back as a younger reader, but I picked up a stack of them, and what I did actually was pick up issues 4, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 8, or 17, 20. Not 18 and 19. Okay, 18, 19, and 20. So a great coup there, picking up the Alien Legion books. That's just a purely personal thing. Wanting to read that story all the way through from issue 1. Also, I've begun going back and just recently began to get interested in the Captain Canuck series. Found a few of those in the dollar boxes. Issue 9, found issue 12, and issue 13. Again, a lot of this. I know a lot of guys do videos on the great cheap finds on expensive books. That's great. I've done that before. This was largely what made this such a great haul, was that it was largely stuff I've been looking for and stuff I've wanted to read. I like finding a great flip-it book as much as anyone, and there's a few of these I probably will. But these are not them. These are going to be read by me and most likely kept by me. But a word on the Alien Legion very quickly. This is a book that eventually this book has got to be optioned for a movie. With all the comic book movies that are going on right now, Alien Legion needs a movie. Somebody ought to grab that book up, or grab that option up, that property for a movie. That is a movie that I would go see. And with all the special effects and such that can be done these days, I'd be surprised if someone did not. Now, I'll tell you another property that I think is ripe for an animated feature, and that is Leave It a Chance. And I've just about, I think, finished my run. Maybe I'm missing 1 or 2 issues of all the Leave It a Chance books. Now, I have hardcover collections, the 3 hardcover collections that were done. But today I picked up issue 7, issue 9. Oops, trying to keep that glare off there. And issue 11, and those are all just acquiring those so I can read those all at once. And if you don't know, if you've never heard of Leave It a Chance, it's a wonderful series by Paul Smith, the artist who picked up X-Men back in the day in the 80s after let's see, it went Cockrum, Byrne, Cockrum again, and then after Cockrum, after Dave Cockrum was Paul Smith. And so anyway, so he that's his own property. Leave It a Chance. It's kind of a fantasy, magical kind of series. And she was, in a sense, she was Harry Potter before there was a Harry Potter. Finally found issue 3 of CrossGen's Abadazad. Abadazad is a Michael Plug, the artist, Michael Plug, does the book. And I'm really not sure. It's been too long. J.M. DeMatteis is the writer. But Michael Plug does the art, which is what drew me to it. I've always been a big Plug fan ever since Bronze Age, his Bronze Age Marvel horror stuff. And this is I'd been looking for issue number 3 for a few years now, a handful of years, and I find it in the dollar box. Now, my understanding is that Abadazad, after the 3 initial issues of CrossGen of course folded, and Abadazad has been released in another form, storybooks or something. I'm going to investigate that one day. May do a video on that. Now, I like independent books, and independent books from 80s and even the 70s. Some stuff maybe you've never heard of before, but this is Cobalt Blue number 1, and I read them many times. These independent books, especially from the 80s and 70s and 90s even, they're really bad, but there's something about the badness that I like, for the same reason that I like to watch B movies. Now, I will say this: just recently, I got the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie pack that has the movie and the documentary Doomed on both of them on Blu-ray. And it's a great package. It's a great documentary, great interviews on there, and one of those cases where the documentary is even better than the movie. However, I say all that to say this: my boys and I watched that Fantastic Four movie and had a blast, because the special effects, it was made for like $1 million in 1994. Cheap movie. And the effects were cheap and all this, but the actors had such heart, and the cast had such, you could tell they loved the property. And so it was, they did it they did it with all their might. I won't comment on their acting ability, but it was just fun to watch. And so anyway, I like a lot of the independent books for the same reason. The creators had heart in a lot of these, and maybe it didn't translate to a great story, but they had some heart. Now, The Eradicators is another book like that. This book, Eradicators number 1, actually has early Ron Lim art, and I've had number 1 before, and this is my second copy of it. But today, for the first time ever, I found issue number 2. I don't recognize the artist on that. It says on the front, Benton Jew on the cover. I haven't even looked inside, I'll be honest with you. But the Eradicators number 3 has, the cover is by, it looks like Dane McCart and Timothy Vigil. Of course, a lot of people know who Tim Vigil is. And that's issue 3, and I even found issue 4, which is just by Dane McCart, it looks like. So those are, the 2, 3, and 4 are issues I've never seen before. I've never seen Eradicators 2, 3, and 4. So that was interesting, and it was just, like I say, dollar books, and so I picked those up. I found another issue number 1. This is the last independent, the last obscure independent. How about that? One I'd never heard of before, but published in 1982, and that is Just Imagine Comics and Stories number 1, an all black and white cover. But like I said, haven't even cracked it. There's something in me that when I see one of these independent books that I've never seen before, I grab it, and usually it's your typical independent book from that period. Every once in a while, though, there's something really interesting in it. However, generally they all have heart, and so because all of these creators loved what they were doing, they loved the art form, and so found this for $1. Boba Fett 1/2, the Wizard 1/2 edition. I don't even know what year that was from. I know it was from the 90s, but that is a wonderful Tim Bradstreet cover. That's the main reason I got it. And I know some Star Wars heads still, occasionally Star Wars fans seek that out, but I found that for $1 today. Now this is the Death of Superman issue with the Tombstone cover, and it's not bagged. It's not it's bagged and boarded, but not polybagged. The polybag's gone. But this is the one. This is one I never got. I liked that. I liked the Doomsday story. I liked the Death of Superman story. But what this has, this is the one that has the black armband, the newspaper, the Daily Planet article folded in there, a promotional poster for World Without a Superman or Death of a Friend or whatever the next storyline was. And there's a set of stamps in there, just 4 stamps. And so anyway, just kind of a neat little book that I've never had and I'm going to have in my collection now. Now, that kind of goes along with my love of gimmick covers. I do like gimmick covers, and that is one. Now, a little bit of a story behind this next gimmick cover. This is an Amazing Spider-Man 365, which again, with the popularity and with the new movie Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, this is one of those Spider-Man comics at the time that had the hologram cover. And they did one for Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, and I believe just Spider-Man. Now, here's the strange thing. I had all those others. I have first and second prints of all of those others. Somehow I missed this one. And whereas I got those for $1 to $3 a piece, every one of them. And the second prints are really cool because they're gold holograms instead of silver holograms. But this one I missed somehow. And so when I realized that this had the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, and who I won't say how, but plays into the Spider-Verse movie, I realized I didn't have it, and I was just, oh no, I'm going to have to go on eBay and bid against somebody most likely. And I did, but I got it. And so the main reason I wanted it, and the main reason I have it, is not for the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, but it's for this hologram, because those holograms are gorgeous, and I really like them. Now, speaking of that, I also went ahead and picked up, I always liked Peter David's Run of the Hulk. There was a branch of it, though, a portion of it that I didn't read, and so I went back, and it was largely penciled by Angel Medina. And I went back and got, now this one isn't. This one was, at least the cover is by Liam Sharp, but it's got that hologram on it, one I'd never owned, and so I decided to go ahead and get that. And went ahead also and got a whole run, a lot of those issues with Angel Medina. And so, just kind of, you got issue 434, 435, 436, and on. 437, 38, 39, 440, 442, missing 441, 443, 444, 445, and 446. So a few Hulks to read and get back into that. That's one thing about the Peter David run. Even though I missed a lot of it, I never heard anyone ever complain about Peter David's Hulk. Now, a couple of first appearances I didn't expect to find in a dollar box, but here is Firestorm number 24, which includes a special story in there, a self-contained story, first appearance of Blue Devil. And so that was a no-brainer picking that up in a dollar box. Now that is a flippable. That's one that I'll probably hang on to for a while and then flip, because I have a copy of it that I had already gotten cheap before. And then Sword of Azrael number 1. If I'm not mistaken, that's the first appearance of Azrael. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. Some of y'all are starting to comment on the videos. I appreciate that. But let me know if I'm all wet on that. But I haven't even looked at it. I go into these, I don't study it for the most part when I come into these videos. I'm an old comics fan, an old codger, and I just don't worry about that. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. But I believe that's the first appearance of Azrael. Got it for $1. I'll press that, and I'll press the Firestorm, and they'll look all right. Now, a few Bronze Age that I found in the dollar boxes. I'm always happy to find Bronze Age in the dollar box. This is a DC Superstars Giant. Presents the Man Behind the Gun. For the most part, got that for the cover. Again, I don't even know what's inside it. I do take them out of the bag, make sure they're decent, and everything. But for $1, I just, that cover was amazing. I'd never seen that cover before, and I'm more of a Marvel guy than DC guy, but that one just spoke to me. It's an Ernie Chua cover, and I believe that sometimes I'm not sure. Someone let me know if Ernie Chua and Ernie Chan are the same artist. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but inked by Vince Coletta, so just a great cover there. Actually found number 2 of Marvel's Arg satire book, and from the Bronze Age, 25 center. Again, that in the dollar box is always just a great thrill to find those. Incredible Hulk number 210. I already have this issue, but this was such a sharp issue. Had great corners and still had great gloss, and so that was a no-brainer. That's also one of those that has, now see, that is, okay, I just answered my own question. Pardon me for this, but I'm going to do it. Ernie Chua, and I just noticed this. Ernie Chua, of course, did the cover, did the DC Superstars cover I just mentioned. He did the same. He did Ernie Chan drew the Incredible Hulk cover, and I wish I could show you, but I don't have that. Maybe I may take some pictures of them and show them up in the corner. Let's see, that'll be right here. I may show them right here. I'll try to do that. But the name looks the same, except in one it's Chua and one is Chan. I'll put those up, and you'll hopefully see those when this video goes up. All right. Also in the dollar box, Reno Jones, well, Gunhawk. Reno Jones, and I can't even read it because of the sticker. Excuse me, keep leaning off camera here. Reno Jones and Kid Cassidy, Gunhawks, number 6. I've heard of them, but I don't think I'd ever seen a Gunhawks book out in the wild. Or at least if I had, I hadn't noticed it or taken note of it. So, found that in the dollar box, and it's in very decent shape. Now, one of the other DC books I got, but the DC Comics Presents number 8. And this is one that I've seen before and I always wanted to read, but it's always been kind of financially out of reach. I didn't want to pay that much for it, not knowing about it. It has a beautiful Jose Luis Garcia Lopez cover, but it's the Superman and Swamp Thing, and the story seems to depict Swamp Thing helping Solomon Grundy defeat Superman, which who's ever heard of such a thing? And but anyway, looks interesting and worth reading, and just kind of like I say, I like Garcia Lopez's work, and it has a great cover, so pick that up for $1. Now, the rest of these, and we're almost done. The rest of these are all Charlton books. A couple of Monster Hunters. Monster Hunters number 6. I don't know who did that cover, but it looks almost Plugish, but I don't think Plug did any work for Charlton. He might have. But I'll have to do some research on that because I didn't see a name on the cover. But so there's that Monster Hunters. Then Monster Hunters that was number 6. This is number 15. And Ditko cover on there. Steve Ditko. I'm fairly sure it's going to be a reprint story, but still a wonderful Steve Ditko cover. Every Steve Ditko cover is wonderful. And then this is one book that I already had, but I'll get it. Now this goes into the burn category as well, but this is Emergency number 1. These books don't have bags. I mean boards. They just have bags. Emergency number 1. Now, painted cover by Joe Staton. And interior art by John Byrne, but it was at the time it was called Byrne Robotics, okay, and and I believe a text story in the back also by Byrne. There is a text story, but I believe it's by Byrne. Now, Emergency number 2. This is one I'd never seen before. Another painted cover by, I think it's by Joe Staton. Just says Staton on there. It has a text story in the back as well with illustrations by John Byrne, but the interior art is done by someone I'd never heard of. Sounds like a pseudonym for sure, maybe for somebody who is well known in the art field today. I don't know, but art by Demetrio. One name, like Cher or Beyonce or Liberace. Demetrio. So there's your Emergency issue number 2. With art by Demetrio and a story, a text story in the back with illustrations by John Byrne. E-Man number 4. E-Man number 4, and not a Modern Comics reprint, but an actual Charlton book. Many of those that I find, I don't know if it's the same with you, but many of those I find are Modern Comics reprints of the books. So, and then lastly, I actually found a Billy the Kid, 25-cent comic. Billy the Kid with a Warren Sattler cover, and again painted cover. I'll tell you those. Say what you want about the interiors of the Charlton books during the Bronze Age. but so many of the covers were painted, or at least they had that painted look, and they looked wonderful. They were beautiful, and so just fun to look at. Even if once you opened up a Charlton book, a lot of times the coloring threw you off. But anyway, hey, that was my haul. That was my haul for the last couple of days. Just a great late and kind of Merry Christmas. But you know, that happens. Hit the stores. Hit those stores. If you have stores with cheap boxes, whether it's 25, and some stores out there still do have 25-cent and 50-cent comics, but whether it's $1 boxes, $2 boxes, hit them now. Hit them after the Christmas sales and Black Friday sales and all that kind of stuff. They're starting the new year. They're going through their stock, and they're turning stuff out into the cheap boxes. If you have a store that has cheap boxes, hit them now. Hey, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. Subscribe to 4-Color Commentary. We'll try to keep the videos coming out pretty soon here. Maybe the next video, the boys really want to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so we might hopefully do that very soon. So anyway, hey, thanks for watching, and come back again. We'll see you next time.